This is Mario Andretti, and you are listening to Below the Yellow Line.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Below the Yellow Line. I don't even know what episode number we're on at this point, but we do have a very, very fun guest in the virtual studio today. Connor Hudson, creator and owner and content creator for the LA49 Productions YouTube channel and member of the Daily Downforce. Thank you for joining us today. I know I introduced you a little bit there, but go ahead, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Well, that's pretty much the whole spiel right there. My name is Connor. I've been doing YouTube videos for almost 12 years now. I feel old. I got one foot in the grave, but especially the past year and a half or so, I've been leaning into NASCAR video essays and doing that kind of stuff. And people seem to like it, so I just keep on doing it.
Hey, people like it enough to subscribe a lot. That's a very, very good indication there. How did you get your start in NASCAR? Before you became a content creator, you were a fan like the rest of us. Where did you get your start? How did you become a race fan?
Well, I think like a lot of young people in 2006, I got into NASCAR from the movie Cars. Just Lightning McQueen this, the King that, everything. And then when I found out there was a real sport just like the movie, I was like, you know what? I'm going to get into that. And then I went to my first race when I was 6 years old in 2008. Actually, I have the flag of the race right here. The 2008 Brickyard 400, which is often heralded as one of the worst NASCAR races of the modern era, if not the worst. So it's kind of a wonder that I'm even here, but I still liked it so much that I just kept on watching year after year after year and still doing it 15 years later.
You know, I think when we're that young, any race seems exciting to us. The first NASCAR race I ever went to when I was 7, it was a Richmond race, and I fell asleep in about row 3.
Yep.
I felt
Same here.
Richmond literally put me to sleep, which it does a lot of people. But yeah, so very, very similar stories there. You are a Martin Truex fan. You know, I know last Sunday, Easter Sunday, was a little difficult for you watching the end of that race play out, but how did you become a Truex fan? What endowed you to follow Martin Truex Jr. like you do?
Well, initially I was a Tony Stewart fan. I just liked the Home Depot car. My parents often took me to the Home Depot, and so there was just a correlation there. But then when he started kind of getting phased out and started running less races, that's when Martin Truex joined Furniture Row Racing, which is my hometown team. And, you know, you always want to root for the winner. So Furniture Row was always kind of my second favorite behind Tony Stewart. But then at the end of 2014, you know, they started to kind of, you know, get in gear. They started getting more top 20s than top 10s. And then obviously the start of 2015, when they brought in Cole Pern as crew chief, that's when they really started to pop off. And so getting to see that, you know, I had always followed that team's journey. But, you know, getting to see them grow from the small town Denver team that most people didn't even know existed. I mean, literally, if you look at the front of their race shop, you wouldn't be able to tell. It just blends in perfectly with all the other buildings. But, you know, they started riffing off wins here and there. And from there on, I was just MTJ all the way.
And the rest was history. Stage winner MTJ is, I think that's all forever just in our brains, because that's all we heard all through 2017, 2018. I mean, the guy was unstoppable there, got that championship, nearly got another one the next year.
Yep.
Where did you get the idea? You said you got into NASCAR from Cars. Where did you get the idea to start a YouTube channel? And when did you realize that, hey, I want to do this for a job? I want to talk about the sport that I love for a job. When did that come about?
I think so. When I was around 7 or 8, that's when YouTube was still kind of the wild, wild west. Parents did not like us going on YouTube. In fact, my parents did not want me on YouTube. They told me explicitly not to do it. So I went on YouTube at my grandma's house where they couldn't catch me. And I watched a lot of NASCAR compilations and videos. And then one day I saw this video that it looked like a NASCAR race, but I hadn't seen it before, and it looked weird. So I clicked on it, and it was like die-cast cars being moved in circles. I was like, what the heck's going on here? It was the Aflac Cup Series. I don't know if you ever watched ACS. That was kind of where I learned about, oh, there's like more than just, you know, NASCAR racing on here. You can make your own NASCAR stuff. So I figured out how to do stop motion. Vague, not very well, but I figured it out nonetheless. And from there, I just started, and especially Eric Estep. I loved watching his stop motions. I basically watched them alongside the actual NASCAR Cup Series. Like every week, I'd look at who's winning the real races, who's winning the diecast races. So those were the main features on my channel. The first, I'd say probably 10 years, was just stop motions. And then, when I got to college, I've always done it just for fun, and I still do it for fun. I love making YouTube videos. But when you get to college, you kind of have to start thinking about, okay, I need to like actually live and make money and eat food every day. And I had a job that was going pretty good, but it was in music, like music performance. But also my degree in college is in film, and I was looking at both of those areas, and I didn't really like what I saw. I wasn't I can do it, but I'm not really going to be that happy. And so I came to a crossroads where I could leave my job and start doing my own thing for a couple years. I'd saved enough money to get by for a little bit, but I knew that it was kind of now or never. And I remember just sitting with my mom at the table, because it's a job that like every kid wants. But to actually get there, you never know. I'd say it's difficult, but it's not. It's not even difficult. It's just you have to find your own path, and not only that, but people have to be willing to endorse that path and follow you along on that path. And so I remember sitting with my mom at the kitchen table, and she doesn't know a whole lot about YouTube. So I had to explain to her, I was like, listen, this is kind of risky. I might be, in the trenches for a couple months, but, I think I can do this. And so from there, I started making a few videos that didn't go very well, but then I made one that just totally clowned on the NASCAR officiating, because that first year of the next gen, I don't know what, some of the decisions they made were just so backwards. But it made for a good video. People seemed to like it. And I figured I'd kind of caught lightning in a bottle. So like literally, you could ask my mom, during Christmas Eve that year, I was sat at the kitchen table as Santa was probably coming down the chimney. I was sat at the kitchen table making my next video for Christmas Day, because you never know when this kind of stuff, you never know when the hype's going to go away. And I didn't want to take it for granted. So I made my next video like 2 weeks later. And from there, I've just been, kept the cycle going, and the rest is history.
It really is. And you talk about, YouTube, it's not necessarily something that's difficult, but you do have to forge your own path. And I feel you on that. It's something that it's usually going to take a while for you to gain traction. But once you do gain some traction, you usually take off at least a little bit. And you have proven to do that. You talk about the video there that you made about the officiating errors. And, there's always going to be videos about that. NASCAR Race Control loves to give us content ideas, which is helpful for us.
Yeah, I
not
appreciate
as race
that for that.
fans, but as content curators. Where do you get the ideas from your videos, though? Do you just watch races and jot down notes? Are they just random, shower thoughts or 2 a.m. thoughts when you can't go to sleep? That's where I get some of mine. How do you come up with the ideas for your videos? And then what is your process of making videos? I'm somebody, I get burned out sometimes. I got to take breaks. Are you somebody that can constantly work on something for hours at a time? Or do you space things out and plan things, say, okay, a month, 2 months for this? What is your process for creating content?
It really depends on the video. Like, like you say, it's easy to get burnt out and, feel like, oh my gosh, I'm juggling 10,000 things at once. I need a break. And sometimes, especially this past week, once I got my last video out, which was like 26 something minutes long, I did not mean for that video to be that long. But when I realized, okay, this is going to be a long one, I decided, you know what? I need a little break. So I've just been enjoying the past couple days. But as far as video ideas go, you're right. A lot of shower thoughts, a lot of thinking about, and especially as you're watching the races, maybe Mike Joy will bring up a stat or something, and you're just like, ooh, there's layers to that, and I can kind of dive into that. I guess if I were to give a recent example, in my last video again, watching the Richmond race that Truex should have won, but didn't because pain. I was like, wait, this plays in perfectly with the one I'm trying to make. Like, he led the most laps, comfortably led the most laps, and was well on his way to win, and then something ridiculous happened. And so that was a rewrite that I did like 5 days before the upload. Thankfully, I wasn't too far into editing it, so I could comfortably do that. But it really is just, sometimes I think about things that could be videos. Sometimes I see stuff on TV. Some videos, like, other people make videos like, Slap and Iceberg and Black Flags Matter and Eric and everybody. You don't think about ways you can copy them or steal their ideas, but you think of ways you can build on them and make something different. So I don't want to reveal too much about my next video, but like Black Flags Matter made a video about Casey Kane and one of his rookie year losses. And I was sitting there thinking, he had a lot of those. I kind of want to make a video about that. So that's just kind of the process that you try to take. And Sometimes it works well, but also when you talk about burnout, when I start writing a video, I try to check my enthusiasm about it. Like if it feels good, the words kind of flow. It doesn't take too long to write, doesn't take too long to edit. It should just, it should be an outpour. If it doesn't feel quite as good, then the script's probably going to take longer. And at that point, usually I just cut my losses and say either I'm going to table it, think about ways I can make it better or different, or just scratch it. Which is hard when you devote a lot of time to something and you feel like you wasted time. But I think it's the process that you have to take to get the best product, if that makes any sense.
I think you're absolutely right there. And not to bring up Richmond one more time, but I will say, I feel like as a Bubba Wallace fan, I have to personally apologize for the end of that race because my guy had a pretty big part in that. And then, as he said, karma kind of got him, and he goes from running in top 5 all night to finishing 13th. But Truex fans got the worst end of the deal there. Had a win insured, and you end up 4th and with a wrecked race car too at the end. I see that hat you're wearing on your head. I mentioned it a little bit in the open, the Daily Downforce. How did that deal come about? How did they reach out to you and say, hey, we want you to join our team? And what's it like being a part of the great team over there at the Daily Downforce?
So last year I just got a phone call one day, and as up to that point, I mean, my YouTube journey has been solo. It's been me alone. Sometimes it really sucks because, there are times where it feels good to have that creative control, but also, there really is only so much one person can do. And especially living here in Colorado, there's no Furniture Row's long dead. That was the last NASCAR thing out here. I'm thankful to still have some connections like with the people at Pikes Peak International Raceway. But other than that, there's not a lot of opportunities in NASCAR and racing out here. And so I'm just kind of, I'm doing my own thing, and I like to think I'm doing pretty good, but there's only so much I alone can do. And so I got a phone call one day that was I think it was from Craig at the Daily Downforce. And he was basically telling me, probably the best phone call I've ever received, because he was basically telling me, hey man, we like your stuff. We want you to be a part of what we're doing over here. And when people do that, I get a lot of offers in Gmail about, I want to be your agent, I want to be your talent manager and stuff like that. And you hear about that stuff and you're like, okay, what's it going to take? How much do I pay you? What are you going to take from me? How much extra work is this going to be? But the folks at the Daily Downforce, they're extremely accommodating. They're, it's not, there's not a lot of like legal jargon or anything. It's literally just people who are passionate about racing, coming together and making content about racing. It's just a network. And it feels so good to be a part of. They've had a lot of great opportunities for me. I've done some podcasts and stuff for them, and in return, they get my name out even further than it would be. They get my name into the garage area, which is something I cannot do. So it's been a really great experience so far. And also just getting to connect, like, I was on the NASCAR Weekly podcast about a month ago. And there's just, it was cool to do, but also there was something about joining that Zoom call. And I was like, oh my God, it's Eric Estep and all those guys. Like, these guys have been watching their videos for like 5-10 years. I'm getting to like actually talk to them and hang out with them and everything. So it was such a cool opportunity, and I'm forever grateful for everything they've done for me so far.
Yeah, great crew over there. A lot of people, like you said, they're passionate about racing. They're not gonna take you through the ringer. They're not gonna take you to court over this or that or make you sign a bunch of contracts. They make content for race fans by race fans, and that's the best thing as race fans. Is just get the stuff that we want from people we trust, from people that we share a common interest with. What are your favorite parts about making content? I'm sure there's a lot of them, but what is the best thing, whenever you publish a video, when you're making a video, what is the thing that makes you think, this is why I do it, this is why I love this sport, this is why I love my job, this is why I love what I do?
I think the two things that make it a lot of fun, well, the big two things, there's a lot of things I love about it, but number one, the creative process, because I'm just finishing up my senior year of film school. And so I'm very, I'm passionate about racing, but I'm also passionate about, editing and making film and doing all that stuff. And in the creative process, especially with a lot of thank God for NASCAR posting full length videos on YouTube. I don't have to go dealing with all the stuff that like Formula One content creators have to. I get to take that footage and kind of think about ways I can maybe I can cut from this car to this car. Maybe I can do a transition here. When I'm talking about a stat or something, maybe I can put up a graph or like make an interesting graphic or just something like that. The creative process is a lot of fun. And that's why I hate narrating. Like I have to go into an hour recording sesh, and then cutting the audio to actually make it nice and choppy. And that pace that I want it to be at usually takes like 4 or 5 hours. And I hate that process so much, but then it gets me into the edit, and it is so much fun to edit these videos and just think of ways I can make it unique and creative and keep engaging the viewer. And then also the viewership, like, just getting to read the comments and, hear from other people and, not just I really appreciate people leave such kind words. I really appreciate that. But then there's also people who, they'll add something or they'll say like, hey, you forgot this. Like in my last video, I made an entire like graph of like every race in NASCAR's modern era where the driver led the most laps and didn't win. And I totally forgot the 2008 Richmond race. Hamlin led like 381 laps of 400. Then Kyle Busch spun Dale Jr. and Clint Boyer won. Like that's a crazy race that I just totally forgot. And so it's nice to just have that kind of sense of community that people create in the Reddit pages and on YouTube and on Twitter and everything. For somebody who's kind of a distance from the sport his whole life, it really makes me feel like I still get to be a part of it. So it's cool.
Well, that is really cool, and having those comments, it's fun whenever we get comments, right? But especially positive ones, because it kind of reaffirms what we're doing. It says, hey, somebody out there is paying attention. Somebody likes what we're doing, and plenty of people obviously have shown interest in what you're doing. My last question for you here, Connor. There's been, we talked about it earlier, we're race fans at heart. There's been a lot of memorable moments since we've both been watching the sport. We came in around the same time. What is the best, funniest, most memorable moment that you have seen? And I'm sure there's a lot of them. What is the best moment that you've ever seen as a NASCAR fan? What is the one moment? And it could be funny. It could be a moment that someone would say, well, that's stupid. Why would you choose that? But it could just be the funniest thing ever. What's the best thing that you've ever seen while watching a NASCAR race?
I think obviously during any race, there's some crazy, like, just Richmond a few weeks ago, Joey Gase throwing the bumper. And, I'd say the craziest thing would probably be, it's a default answer, but Chastain's Hail Melon. Like I remember I kept saying, I was on a Discord call with some people as that happened. I wish I'd recorded it because I kept saying repeatedly, he can't do that. He can't do that. Not because it was against the rules, but because I was like, my brain could not comprehend that he just did that. That didn't look real. It absolutely crazy. But, the craziest moment I've seen live, and a moment that like brought everybody in the stands together, is actually the last NASCAR race I went to, which was the Roval in 2021. And I remember I was kind of just chilling with my friend talking, they just restarted the race. Nothing's really going on. And we look over and Chase Elliott's car, he's got like the bumper half off and Harvick's rolling away. And we're like, what just happened? Did he just do that? Because I had told my friend about this whole rivalry and he doesn't know NASCAR. So even he was like, oh, you were right. Dang. And so, fast forward a few laps later, Chase Elliott's running, 200-mile-an-hour laps with his bumper half off, trying to run down Harvick. And all of us in the stands were like, had our arms on our shoulders. We're like, oh my God, he's going to do it. He's going to catch him. And finally he caught him right in front of us, right on the front straightaway. And Harvick went straight into the barrier. And I had this Elliott fan next to me. We were both like screaming. It was crazy because I expected him to wreck him. I didn't expect him to wreck himself. And that was just such a crazy moment to be there for. That was one of those moments that you look like, I imagine people in Martinsville in 22 and in Martinsville in 2019 and 2017 and every other year there's been something crazy there. That's one of those moments you sit there and you're like, wow, I was there for that. Like that's freaking cool.
It certainly was one of those moments. I think Kevin Harvick meant to rattle Chase Elliott's cage, and he rattled his own on accident and sent
went the other
himself
way.
into the Tums heartburn turn there.
Yeah.
That was a good moment. I think I was at an NFL game that day, and I get in the car to leave, and I check my phone for updates, and I think the first thing I see is, Harvick's in the wall. All right, well, that a lot certainly happened. So that was a good one for sure. And you mentioned Martinsville, so many memorable moments from there. Not from this weekend's race. That was a bit of a snoozer. And
fortunately,
we go to everyone's favorite track this weekend in Texas. I lied. This is actually my last question, I promise.
No, it's all good, man. Keep them
coming.
What
are your expectations for Texas this weekend? Who do you think could win? And how many race fans do you think are awake at Green Flag will be asleep by the time stage one ends? Because I'll be fighting it. I'm always tired on Sunday afternoon. Throw in the fact we're going to Texas. It's just going to make it even harder to stay awake.
Seriously. Yeah, and I this is like the one track that I'm like, ugh, I don't want to do it. I mean, the last race there was okay. It wasn't great. But it still was better than the previous ones. Um, I just can't wait till we get to like Talladega or something. But this weekend, I think, man, William Byron, it's hard to argue. He looks damn good right now. Like I thought 2022, I was like, okay, he made the playoffs. That's great. You know, I don't know if it's going to amount to much. 2023 pretty much is the best driver all year, I'd say, but doesn't win the championship. And this year I'm like, well, you know, that was a cool run. I feel like people are going to start catching up with him. I don't know if he's going to Daytona 500, Coda this past weekend. Like, dude is unstoppable. And obviously the previous win at Texas went to him. I'd say he's definitely one to look out for. And then, of course, you know, Kyle Larson and Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick, and then Bubba Wallace. He's got a bit of an axe to grind. He wants to, you know, he got the pole last time at Texas, almost had the win, kind of choked it away, but man, he could, you know, light the world on fire this weekend. But there's a lot of good drivers to look at. You're right. I'm gonna need a lot of Red Bull to stay awake for that one, but it should be fun.
Oh man, you know, we'll make it through it somehow. I agree on the Byron pick. I think he's probably my pick for this weekend. I agree. I'm excited for Talladega. I'm also nervous. I have a $25 bet on Todd Gilliland to win that race, and if Todd does not win that race, I do have to pay out $25 to my co-host. So I'm really hoping that doesn't happen. That was a kind of a stupid bet to make, but I've been saying for these last few weeks since I made it. I made it like Atlanta weekend. I'm saying, you know, I believe in Todd, hyping him up, doing a bunch of, you know, all that. And after these last few weeks, I don't believe in Todd as much. We'll see. He looked fast at Daytona.
It's Talladega, man. Anything can happen.
It is Talladega. So if Todd loses, I'll be out $25. I'll really be falling behind in the pick points, but that's why I'm picking William Byron this weekend. So anyway, Connor, thank you for joining the show. It is good insurance, better insurance than a lot of other drivers have. But yeah, thank you for joining us today, and best of luck in the future. I think we're going to be hearing a lot about you here in these content creation spaces. You got a lot of great people out there doing what you're doing, but you certainly seem to know what you're doing better than most all of us. So appreciate you joining the show, and good luck in the future.
Well, thank you so much for having me.